right, Irredeemable Volume 8. Volume 6 and 7, we had Plutonian off-planet. He was on a prison planet, and then he was on an intergalactic insane asylum. And those volumes were not the best. We were kind of spinning our wheels a little bit there. But finally, Plutonian is back on Earth, and he is going to be causing havoc. And there is going to be tons of fun in this volume. This one's good. We're getting back on track here. I'm liking it. So let's dive into the story for Irredeemable Volume 8. Irredeemable Volume 8, written by Mark Waid, art by Peter Krause, Diego Barreto, Eduardo Barreto, and Damian Couceiro. Issue 28. At this point in time, the world does not know Plutonian has returned to Earth. General Ehrlich, who is the acting US president, is in an office preparing for a big important speech he is about to give. He is nervous, but his secretary encourages him onward. Ehrlich then steps out in front of a crowd of people to a press conference to the world. He talks about how in the aftermath of Plutonian's attacks, they must now start rebuilding the world. He announces that the US has entered into an economic partnership with China, Brazil, Japan, and the United Kingdom. The countries will act as shareholders rather than lenders. Likewise, America will help out those countries as well with their rebuilding efforts. It is a dramatic step, but the president says we either hang together or hang separately. While that moving, dramatic speech to the world was happening elsewhere, Plutonian decides to announce his return to the world. He flies high into the sky, and with his laser heat vision, he begins destroying entire cities across North America. St. Louis, Indianapolis, Montreal, all gone. In the end, we see Plutonian has drawn his logo across the entirety of North America, and he did it like it was nothing. 2 days later, in the aftermath of Plutonian's return, which kind of completely undermined the new president's message, the world has now descended into chaos. Cary, or Survivor as he likes to be called, is getting tons of shit as he has taken on the leadership role and made all sorts of promises to everybody. The new Paradigm members, who are mostly reformed criminals, are yelling at Cary. They are saying to him, "You promised the whole damn world that they'd be safe now, that Plutonian was gone, that we would be alright. No wonder everyone's pissed at you. We're pissed. If Plutonian doesn't kill us again, anyone with a gun will. How are you gonna fix this, Cary?" Cary says that everything is under control. In fact, he was just talking to Cubit. Of course, Cary is lying. He has not seen Cubit in weeks, as Cubit is trapped on the planet Genome. Elsewhere, in North Korea, Plutonian is relaxing with his new team that he recruited while on Genome. Mordance and Kern, two of those new members, are on the rooftop of a building, chatting. Inside the building, in a hotel room, Plutonian and new recruit Cutter are in bed. Remember, Cutter has the ability to cut herself and transfer those cuts to other people, such as Plutonian. Well, she has been cutting herself and cutting Plutonian, and Plutonian has been getting some sort of sexual gratification from this. However, Plutonian is growing angry with Cutter as the cuts are no longer strong enough to continue cutting him. Cutter apologizes and says that Plutonian is stronger here on Earth than he was on Genome. That is why it is not working. But she really wants to please Plutonian and keep him happy, as her, Mordance, and Kern owe Plutonian so much. Cutter asks Plutonian, "What do you want, Tony? What do you want most in the whole world?" Plutonian decides what he wants most is to mess with his old Paradigm buddies. Plutonian, Mordance, Kern, and Cutter travel to Paradigm headquarters, where Cary is struggling to reassure everyone that they will be okay. Plutonian, he breaks in through a wall and is looking at everyone and comments, "So, this is the new Paradigm?" Wasn't I the one who put half of you losers in prison at one time or another? Plutonian grabs new Paradigm member, Agent Grave, and chucks him across the room to his death. Plutonian then smiles. Cary tells Burroughs to read Plutonian's mind. Maybe they can get some info there. Burroughs, he does. And then he immediately starts running away screaming, "No, no, no, no!" Cary, he then turns to other Paradigm members and tells them to attack them. We have the numbers after all. New Paradigm member, Apostate, he charges at Plutonian. Cutter, she just casually scratches her neck and transfers the cut to Apostate, and she manages to easily decapitate him by doing this. And Apostate's head bounces off his body and falls on the ground. Plutonian asks Cary, "So here's my question, Cary. After going to so much trouble to ship me halfway across the universe, why did you send Cubit to bring me home?" Cary is a little confused by this, and Plutonian explains, "You heard me. Barely 48 hours ago, he and Modius came in through the prison planet door. We broke out." "Miss you, Cubit." Cary replies to this, "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Wait, you left him there? I knew he was missing. He's been AWOL for a while, but what was he doing with Modius?" The other Paradigm members, hearing Cary say this, grow angry. Cary literally just told them moments ago that he was talking to Cubit on a plan, so clearly he was lying. They start yelling at Cary, and they start fighting him in that anger. Plutonian, he just hangs back. He's loving it. He's just laughing. Cutter asks him, "Do you want us to kill them?" Plutonian replies, "No, where's the fun in that? We're gonna watch them kill each other." Cary, he retreats and he starts running away from the others. He remembers that Burroughs saw something in Plutonian's mind when he asked Burroughs to read it, and then Burroughs ran away. Cary figures Burroughs must have saw something, maybe something useful. He must talk with him and find him right now. Cary, he's running away from the others and he is going through the building. He opens a door and eventually he finds Burroughs. Burroughs committed suicide. Plutonian, watching this with his X-ray vision through the walls, he laughs when he sees it and says, "Oh, this is just getting better and better." Issue 29. Cary is still battling the new Paradigm members, which are angry at him for lying. Meanwhile, Plutonian, Mordance, Kern, and Cutter are in the desert, wishing upon falling stars. However, they are not actually falling stars, but just Plutonian chucking new Paradigm recruits into space, and the way they fall kind of resembles a falling star. Plutonian asks his entourage to make a wish. Elsewhere, President Ehrlich in the Oval Office meets with the Chinese and Japanese leaders who discuss options for dealing with Plutonian's return. The Russians are even thinking of doing a nuclear strike, which is obviously a waste of time. No, the Chinese and Japanese have a different solution. They have a secret plan engineered years ago. But the Chinese and Japanese need the Americans' compliance to enact this secret plan. Whatever this plan is, it will reduce Earth's population by a third. So 2 billion will die to save 5 billion. So there is a definite cost to enacting this last-ditch effort. President Ehrlich, he thinks it over. Elsewhere, in the Hollywood Hills, we see Bête Noire. She is living a lavish life, having a sort of pool party with a whole bunch of beefy men. They are out of wine, so Bête Noire volunteers to go into the cellar to retrieve some more. In the wine cellar, Plutonian with Cutter are there to greet her. Bête Noire explains to them why she is now living here in the Hollywood Hills. When she failed to kill Plutonian, she kind of gave up, so she just wanted to live every day like it was her last. She found this mansion in the hills abandoned by some Hollywood producer type last week or so, And when most of LA went up in flames, she moved in, and she figured she might as well go out in style. She figures Plutonian is now here to kill her, and she tells Plutonian to just get it over with. Just do it. Just take his revenge for her trying to kill him earlier. She tells him to just put her out of her misery. Plutonian, though, he would rather mess with people than kill them, so he decides to kiss Bête Noire. And this makes Cutter a little bit jealous. And Cutter, she angrily cuts herself this time with a great amount of force, and it actually hurts Plutonian a bit. Plutonian, he smiles and turns to Cutter and says, "Congratulations for finally finding it in you to make me feel you again. Because together, the three of us can have us some fun." Elsewhere, Kaidan has managed to escape being held prisoner by zombie Scylla. How did she do it? Well, she convinced Ghost Scylla, whom she managed to summon even though she had some sort of inhibitor collar on. Well, she got Ghost Scylla to attack Zombie Scylla, attack his own body basically. And while Zombie Scylla was distracted fighting his ghost, she smashed Zombie Scylla in the head with a big rock, finally fully killing him. And with Scylla fully dead, Ghost Scylla can take on a more stable ghost form now. Oh, the science of comic books is one to be taken very serious indeed. Kaidan, no longer being guarded by zombie Scylla, finally escapes. And then she traveled and she found Gilgamos. And she begins begging Gilgamos for his help in saving the world. Gilgamos, he refuses to help though. But Ghost Scylla, who's now more fully formed once again, he talks to Gilgamos and Kaidan. Ghost Scylla is trying to convince Gilgamos that he is needed. Ghost Scylla says, "Gilgamos, listen to me. I've seen things you can't imagine, and I know that Earth is on the brink. My brother Cary is in his way more dangerous than Plutonian ever was. And if he makes the wrong move now that Plutonian's back, if he lets his ego get in the way, and he will, everyone dies, including you and Kaidan and Bête. So, hear me out. There's something none of the Paradigm have ever knew about Cary and me. It's all we have left to turn the tide. Look at our costumes, Gilgamos. Look at our costumes. Look at the insignia we chose. The clue's been right there in front of you all along. There's a wildcard player in the game who's been hidden off the board all this time. Me and Cary, we're not twins, Gilgamos. There's a third. We're triplets." Issue 30. Ghost Scylla explains all about their secret triplet brother named Elliot. He explains about Elliot to Kaidan and Gilgamos. Back when they were younger, all around about the age of 17, Cary, Scylla, and Elliot all used their powers to fight crime. They had fun, and they felt that they were doing good, although they didn't always use their powers that carefully. In one such incident, they enclosed some bad guys in an enclosure shield, force field kind of thing, and the bad guys fired automatic weapons and the bullets ricocheted inside the enclosure and actually killed some of them. Cary and Scylla didn't really care, but it bothered Elliot. The imbalance of power between them and their victims. It bothered him, so he left. Elliot, he decided to become a priest. He abandoned his powers and he refused to ever use them again. He has since been spending his time helping the needy back to health. Over in Israel, which is where Elliot is right now, he is confronted by his brother Cary. Cary thinks that after Scylla died, the two of them should have worked together to defeat Plutonian. Elliot says, though, that he does not want to use his power. He argues, "Didn't Plutonian prove my point? That absolute power corrupts absolutely?" Cary comments, "So power corrupts everyone, yeah?" Elliot answers yes. Cary, trying to get a rise out of his brother Elliot, says, "Well, what about God?" That pissed you off, didn't it? Cary, he starts attacking and antagonizing his brother, not trying to kill him, but get his brother to use his powers. Cary says to his brother, "Come on, defend yourself. What are you, too good?" Elliot tells Cary, You don't listen, Cary. I'm not good enough. I knew what I'd become if I kept using the power. I'd become arrogant, bullying, unsympathetic, dead inside." Cary, he says, "That's ridiculous." Elliot tells Cary to look in the mirror. Cary, frustrated, says, "Damn it, I'm just trying to do some good here, and all I want is your help save the world." Elliot tells his brother, "You're lying, Cary. You want the power. And you knew coming in there's only one way you'd get it from me. So just do me a favor. Make it quick." Elliot, he gets on his knees and he tells Cary to kill him if he wants his power so bad. Elsewhere, Bête Noire is now traveling with Plutonian and his entourage, albeit begrudgingly. She actually attempts to commit suicide by shooting a skyscraper and having it fall on her, but Plutonian saves her in the last moment. Bête Noire, she then tries to shoot herself in the head, but Plutonian just deflects the bullet. Cutter, Mordance, and Kern talk with Plutonian. They ask him, "We need some direction, Tony. All of us do. What's our purpose? If anything and everything is yours for the taking, what do you really want?" This is an interesting question posed to Plutonian, and honestly, he is not sure. He can take anything he wants on this planet. It's all his for the taking. But if you can have everything, then what do you really want? Plutonian, he needs some time to think on that, and he flies out into the middle of the ocean and submerges himself in the water to try and get away from all the noise. And there he thinks. Over to General Ehrlich, the acting president. Him and the leaders of China and Japan are going to enact their secret plan that they were discussing earlier. The secret plan that will kill 1/3 of the world, but they feel they still must do to save the rest. All three of them plug these weird devices into some sort of weird nuclear football device type thing, and they all simultaneously go through the process in launching their secret weapon. And the secret weapon then gets activated. Elsewhere, off of China's shore, we are going to see what that secret weapon did. We are in something that looks like a nuclear facility with a guy in a hazmat suit named Chiang. Chiang is working away in that facility. And then all of a sudden, he starts getting some warnings on his computer. The computer is saying authorizing Japan. And then we assume China and America were also authorized. Chiang, he gets up. He didn't think this day would ever come. He starts running. A voice on the speaker in the facility says, "Electromagnetic locks released. Faraday plasma shields falling. Facility shut down, facility shut down, facility shut down." There is a massive explosion on that island base off of China's shore, and Chiang dies in the blast. A huge nuclear explosion can be seen, and radiation will spill all over the world. In the aftermath of this blast, what was it? Well, it appears to have released 2 towering creatures from that hidden facility. Whatever these creatures are, they are the world's last resort to deal with the Plutonian. Issue 31. The 2 weird towering creatures rise from their captivity. The 2 towering creatures seem a little bit grief-stricken. You can tell this by the little tears on their face. They form some sort of rock and make a grave. On the grave, they write Chiang in memory on it. Chiang was the name of the man in the hazmat suit who died. So these creatures, they built a monument in his memory, the first man who died as they were released from their prison. This tells us a little bit about these creatures, that they seem to be somewhat good people or persons, better than the Plutonian at least. The creatures then part the seas like Moses and begin walking through the ocean. Over to President Ehrlich and the Japanese and Chinese leaders. The Japanese and Chinese leaders share some dossiers with Ehrlich. They explain that in the decades since China imprisoned the mysterious beings, they have now been released. They have come to suspect that the beings have some sort of connection to Plutonian himself. Their motives in history are a little bit unknown, but their physicists insist that their abilities dwarf the Plutonians, so they are much more powerful than Plutonians. And the Chinese and Japanese have every reason to believe that they can control them. President Ehrlich is furious. He points and yells at them. He says, "You have reason to believe? You swore to me that they were under your command, that they were a weapon you developed, designed and engineered as some secret failsafe against American supremacy." The Chinese leader replies, "You're not feeling very supreme right now. I'd say it worked." The president has the two men arrested. The Japanese and Chinese leaders protest this. "On what grounds? We are the leaders of all Eastern government. You have no right to hold us." And the president tells them, "Then I guess it's a day for doing things we shouldn't." The president then tells his Secret Service men, "Keep them silent, and if they say one word, kill them both." The president, he then gets a briefing on the nuclear radiation that is now spreading across the world, although there is not much that can be done about it. Elsewhere, over to Gilgamesh, Caden, and Ghost Scylla. Caden and Ghost Scylla are trying to convince Gilgamesh to help them recruit Elliot. Caden believes that Gilgamesh will be able to convince him. She says, "You've been alive for centuries, Gil. You're walking proof that a man can live forever with power and not let it corrupt him. You're a spiritual man. You've met the men whose teachings Elliot follows. Talk to Elliot. Help him see how he can't afford to turn his back on the world." Gilgamesh, he agrees to help. Ghost Scylla knows his brother Elliot is in Israel. He knows this because even though he is in his ghost state, Scylla can still feel a link to his brother Elliot's power. Now, how are Caden and Gilgamesh supposed to get to Israel? Teleportation no longer works as Cubit killed all of that technology. But Caden says that with Scylla's help, she has unlocked a new power in herself. She can apparently now walk through the afterlife, and they can do so to use it as a sort of interdimensional shortcut to get to Israel very quickly. So Caden, she opens a portal. Her and Gilgamesh walk in it. Ghost Scylla is leading the way. He tells them to follow the sound of his voice. He warns them not to open their eyes or look at anything while they are in here, as they will not want to see how unpleasant it is. They all walk through and pop out the other side, and then they are face to face with Cary and Elliot. Cary is surprised to see them. Cary says to Scylla, "Sigh, can you hear me? Say something." And Ghost Scylla replies to his brother, "Okay, you're a colossal disappointment, Cary." Ghost Scylla then walks over to Elliot and tells him, "Hey Elliot, it's good to see you again. These are my friends and we need your help to save the human race. Caden, Gilgamesh, this is Elliot." Elsewhere, Bête Noire and Cutter are alone and talking. Bête Noire warns Cutter to not get close to Plutonian, as it doesn't end well for those who do. "Just ask Samsara," she says. She also says that Plutonian has a pattern, and that pattern is he reaches out, he bonds, he waits for rejection, and if rejection doesn't happen, he pushes and forces it. And either way, he gets to feel punished for whatever's inside him. Rinse and repeat. You want to be the next in line for that cycle? Have at it. Me? I'm checking out. Bête Noire, she is going to jump off a cliff to her death. But Cutter grabs Bête Noire and says, no, not after I've come all this way. He trusts you. He wants you. He will accept you. You're the perfect vehicle with which to finally make him mine. And then, in a big twist, it is revealed that Modius, who was in that android body back on Genome, must have jumped inside Cutter's body before they all teleported away. And he has been living in there ever since as Modius Cutter. Modius, now realizing that Bête Noire is the perfect vehicle for Plutonian's love, decides to jump out of Cutter's body and into Bête Noire's. And then as Bête Noire, Modius kicks Cutter off the cliff to her death. And now we see that Bête Noire has Modius's blue electronic-looking eyes, signifying that she is now Modius Bête Noire. Oh, Modius, what body will you jump into next? Back over to Cary, Elliot, Ghost Scylla, Caden, and Gilgamos. Cary and Elliot are continuing to argue. Elliot accuses Cary of killing Scylla to get his power, much the same way he is here now to kill him and take his power. Cary angrily replies, no, I didn't kill Scylla. Plutonian did, not me. Look at the world around you, you righteous jackass. We don't have time to be selfish. He'll turn it into a cinder if we don't take him out now. I can control him with all the power. I can control everything, and you cannot stop me from becoming the god you need. Cary, he feels that he will not succeed in getting his brother Elliot to help him fight. So now he feels like he must kill Elliot to get more powered up so he can finally take on Plutonian. Before he can, though, Cary gets stabbed through the chest and dies. Who stabbed him? It was Gilgamos. Caden, shocked, asks Gilgamos, what have you done? Gilgamos explains his thinking. He says, Cary was already insane. He would have been more catastrophic than Plutonian and, in his arrogance and madness, not near his equal. Instead, we have a pious man at our behest in the form of Elliot. Just as Cary absorbed Scylla's energies, Elliot can take his, and together we can turn him into an unstoppable warrior before whom Plutonian will cower. Ghost Scylla tells Gilgamos he's an idiot. He says it doesn't work that way. It doesn't automatically... Gilgamos, Cary's power was shared between us because he chose to share it. He was the source. We were just the recipients. And with Cary gone, all that power is gone now too. Gilgamos has a look on his face like he just realizes he's screwed up. Good job, Gilgamos! You really dropped the ball on this one, not understanding Cary's convoluted power-sharing abilities. Over in the ocean, Plutonian was alone there, trying to get away from the noise of the world so he could think. While he was doing that, Plutonian then sees those two weird, towering creatures that were released from captivity. They approach him in the water, and Plutonian attacks them. Plutonian grabs them and flies them into the sky. He shouts, "Who are you to disturb me? Who are you at all? Tell me!" The two towering creatures grab Plutonian and they tell him, "We are your birth parents." And with that cliffhanger, we end Volume 8. All right, that was Irredeemable Volume 8. I thought this one was really good. I highly enjoyed it. Let me go through my thoughts on this one. So we had Plutonian back from space, back on Earth, and he gets to be evil and do a whole bunch of bad things, and he loves doing it and is having fun doing it, and I have fun watching him do it. So that's my favorite in the series, when we just get to watch Plutonian be bad. So the Earth was trying to move on and trying to create a post-Plutonian world and come together, but then Plutonian arrives and he laser visions his insignia across North America and destroys cities in the progress like it's nothing, and I loved it. I thought that was so awesome. I liked the twist we had in the story where we learned that Cary and Scylla had a secret triplet brother named Elliot, who they shared their powers with. So that was cool. And I liked some of the conversations we had between Cary and Elliot and Scylla. And of course, though, we had Gilgamesh killing Cary. Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh screwed up in a way because with Cary dead, there's no more power to use to fight Plutonian with. So, yeah, that really changes things. Although, if Cary can be killed so easily, then why was Cubit so nervous about Cary? Gilgamesh just stabbed him and now he's gone. So that whole thing was a little bit poorly thought out, maybe, with Cary and his powers and how much of a threat he was. But nevertheless, I kind of like that Cary's dead now and we can move on from that. Now, Modius coming back into the story. He apparently jumped into Cutter's body and now he's jumping into Bete Noir's body. And it's kind of stupid, but I think it's funny and I kind of like it. You know, Modius, he's just keeps sticking around somehow and he's just jumping into everyone's bodies. And yeah, it's funny. Reminds me in Fantastic Four comics, Doctor Doom, one of his things is he always creates these Doom bots. So the Fantastic Four will like kill a villain or something, or they'll kill Doctor Doom and then they'll realize, oh, it was just a Doom bot all along. So yeah. So Modius jumping into people's bodies is like a Doom bot in a way. We saw that big reveal at the end where these weird creatures with their weird heads or whatever that are ginormous are actually Plutonian's parents. And that is definitely a big shocking kind of twist. A great cliffhanger to end this volume on. And yeah, that was really exciting. Next volume, we are going to learn all about those weird creatures, and we are going to learn Plutonian's real origin. So that's going to be good stuff. Next volume is also going to cross over with Incorruptible. So we're going to learn about Max Damage, the main character in that book, as well. And we're going to see a fight between Max Damage and Plutonian. So that'll be a good time too. But yeah, I really enjoyed volume 8 here. I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back next week with volume 9.